They told you that strength comes from power, from wealth, from status, from control. But what if I told you the greatest power Allah ever placed in this world is already inside you? A weapon no human eye can see, a force no army can stop. And yet, most people will live their entire lives without ever touching it, because this weapon isn't made of steel or fire. It's made of light. It's hidden not in your hands, but in your heart. Ibn Arabi once said, "There is nothing closer to Allah than the heart of the believer." That means every breath you take, every thought that awakens, is connected to something divine. But the tragedy is, we've forgotten. We walk through life thinking we are weak, when in truth, we carry within us the power that shapes the universe. This is not a story about miracles that happened long ago. It's about the miracle that you are. Because before Allah gave you a body, He breathed into you a part of His own spirit. And if you can remember that, if you can awaken the light that has been sleeping inside you, then the world around you will begin to change. So, listen carefully, because what you're about to discover is the secret Ibn Arabi called the weapon of the soul, the hidden power Allah placed inside you before you were even born. There is something ancient inside you, something more powerful than any force in this world. But most people will live and die without ever discovering it. They'll chase wealth, approval, and temporary victories, forgetting that the greatest power has always been inside them. Ibn Arabi said, "The universe was created so that Allah could be known, and the human being you is the mirror through which he sees himself." This means the soul carries a reflection of divine power. But when you forget who you are, the mirror becomes covered in dust. You start to believe you're weak. You start to believe the world controls you. But Allah has already armed you with something far greater. It's not in your hands, it's in your heart. It's the weapon of awareness, the light of remembrance, the strength that rises when your soul remembers its source. Ibn Arabi called it the secret within the soul. It's the one part of you that belongs only to Allah, untouched by ego, untouched by fear. This is your true weapon, your connection to the infinite. It doesn't destroy with anger, it transforms with light. It cannot be seen, yet it changes everything it touches. When awakened, you don't need to prove anything to anyone, because your silence begins to carry the weight of truth. This weapon doesn't fight wars, it ends them. It doesn't shout, it reveals. And once you begin to live from it, no insult, no betrayal, no darkness can break you. Because you no longer fight as a human, you move as a soul, guided by divine strength. But the world doesn't want you to remember this. It distracts you with noise, fear, and endless comparison. It teaches you that power comes from position, fame, or control. And while you chase the outside world, the weapon inside you begins to sleep. You pray without presence. You speak Allah's name, but your heart doesn't listen. And so, you feel empty, not because Allah left you, but because you stopped looking within. Ibn Arabi warned, "You are not weak, you are unaware." The moment you remember who you truly are, the illusion of weakness disappears. Your heart wakes up, and suddenly, the same world that once scared you starts to bow before the light that's been inside you all along. Every human being carries two worlds inside them. One world remembers Allah, the other forgets. One whispers patience, mercy, and peace. The other screams for control, revenge, and pride. And between these two worlds, your real battle begins. Ibn Arabi called this the jihad al-nafs, the struggle of the self. He said, "The greatest war is not fought with swords, but with the heart." This is the war every seeker must face. It's not against people, not against destiny, but against the part of you that resists the truth. Every time you get angry but choose silence, every time you're hurt but choose forgiveness, every time you feel fear but still trust Allah, you win a battle most people never even see. That is what sharpens your hidden weapon. Your weapon is not your voice, not your body, not your wealth. Your weapon is your ability to return to Allah when your lower self wants to run away. The ego loves noise. It wants to prove, to argue, to be seen. But the awakened soul knows that silence speaks louder than words. When you stop reacting to everything around you, you begin to hear something inside you. The still, soft voice of the divine guiding you toward peace. And in that moment, something changes. The same problems that used to break you now become your teachers. The same pain that made you cry now becomes the fire that purifies you. Because Allah does not test you to destroy you. He tests you to awaken you. Ibn Arabi said, "Your enemy is your teacher, for through him you learn who you really are." If you only react with pride, you'll keep fighting the same battles again and again. But when you look deeper, you'll see that every person who hurt you was sent to reveal a part of your soul that still needed healing. The Sufis say, when you fight the darkness outside, it grows. When you fight the darkness within, it dies. That is the essence of the inner jihad. To face yourself with truth, to accept your weakness, and to let the light of remembrance wash away the dust of ego. You don't conquer the world by force. You conquer it by mastering your own heart. Because the one who has control over himself is more powerful than the one who controls nations. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "The strong one is not he who defeats others in battle, but he who controls himself in anger." So, ask yourself who really rules you. Your emotions or your soul? Your fear or your faith? Every day, life gives you small battles, moments of choice where you can either react or rise. These are not random moments. They are spiritual training. Every act of patience builds your light. Every moment of remembrance strengthens your shield. Every step of forgiveness refines your soul's weapon. The awliya, the friends of Allah, never used their power to destroy. They used it to heal, to forgive, to illuminate. When the world insulted them, they smiled. When others cursed them, they prayed for those people's peace. Because they knew the secret. Mercy is the sharpest sword of all. A man once asked a Sufi master, "Why do you never defend yourself when people attack you?" The master smiled and said, "Because my silence defends me better than my words ever could." That is the state of the awakened. They don't fight for victory, they live from victory. Their victory is not in being right, it's in being at peace. Their weapon is not to destroy, but to transform. Because once you master the war within, no force outside of you can ever defeat you again. That is the inner battle, the greatest war you will ever fight, and the only war that will ever lead you back to the peace of Allah. Ibn Arabi said, "Every breath you take is a door. Either it opens to Allah or it closes." That is the secret of presence, the moment when you stop living in memory or fear and start living in the sacred now. Most people don't live in the present. They live inside stories, stories of what happened yesterday or what might happen tomorrow. They pray while thinking about their problems. They walk, but their minds are miles away. Their hearts are rarely here. And yet, Allah does not exist in the past or the future. He exists in this very breath, right here, right now. The Sufis call this hudhur, the state of being fully aware of Allah's nearness. Not just knowing that He is with you, but feeling it. Feeling that His gaze is upon your heart in every moment. When you awaken that awareness, everything changes. The same air you breathe becomes sacred. The same silence begins to speak. The same pain becomes a reminder that you are not alone. Because when you are present with Allah, your soul becomes alive. Presence is the weapon of the saints. They move through chaos untouched because their hearts are anchored in the eternal. The storm may rage around them, but inside there is stillness. They don't control the world. They control their awareness of Allah within it. That is true power. Ibn Arabi wrote that the heart of the believer is the throne of the Most Merciful. Imagine that your heart, the place where Allah chooses to reveal Himself. But the throne cannot hold two kings. If your heart is full of fear, pride, and distraction, where will Allah's light dwell? Presence is clearing that throne, removing everything that keeps you from feeling His nearness. When you do, you begin to taste a peace the world cannot offer and cannot take away. Many people think spirituality is about escaping life, running away to the mountains, sitting in silence, abandoning the world. But Ibn Arabi said something deeper. True presence is not leaving the world, it is seeing Allah in the world. To see Him in the laughter of a child, in the wind that brushes your face, in the quiet pain that pushes you to pray. When you begin to see Him everywhere, you stop dividing life into sacred and ordinary. Everything becomes sacred. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, lived among people. He bought food, he smiled, he grieved, he laughed. But his heart never left Allah for a single breath. That is the perfection of presence. It's not about isolation, it's about awareness. Being with people, yet with Allah in your heart at the same time. The power of presence is not loud. It does not shout or demand. It radiates quietly, like light through darkness. You may have met people who carry this state. You sit beside them and feel peace without a word. Their presence feels like a prayer, because they have surrendered their thoughts, their desires, their past, and become a vessel of remembrance. Ibn Arabi said that the true saint is not one who performs miracles, but the one whose presence reminds you of Allah. That is the highest level of power, when your very being becomes dhikr, when your life becomes a living prayer. But this state is not reached by accident. It's built breath by breath, moment by moment. Every time you bring your attention back to Allah, even for one heartbeat, you build that connection. And when you forget, you simply return again. Because remembrance is not perfection, it's returning. Again and again, until returning becomes your nature. Presence is what turns suffering into strength. It's what allows you to stand calm while others collapse. Because you begin to see that every moment, even the painful ones, are wrapped in divine wisdom. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is Allah showing me through this?" That is the shift from confusion to clarity, from fear to faith. When a person lives in presence, they no longer chase life. Life begins to follow them. They stop searching for meaning, because meaning begins to reveal itself in everything. They stop fearing death, because they already live in the eternal moment where Allah resides. Ibn Arabi taught that presence is not something you create. It is something you uncover. It's always been there, hidden under layers of thought, anxiety, and desire. Once those layers fall away, you realize Allah was always near, closer than your breath, closer than your heartbeat. The Sufis say, when you remember Allah, it is not you who remembers, it is Allah remembering Himself through you. That is the mystery of presence. You are not the one seeking, you are the doorway through which the divine reveals Himself. So when you walk, walk with awareness, When you breathe, breathe with remembrance. When you speak, let your words be soaked in light. Because every moment of presence is a moment of union, a return to the truth that there is no distance between you and the one who created you. This is the power the world cannot imitate, the power of the soul that lives in remembrance, the power of presence, the secret weapon Allah gave His chosen ones, hidden not in their hands, but in their hearts. When Allah chooses someone for light, He also chooses them for solitude. It is the first and hardest test of every awakened soul, to walk alone while the rest of the world sleeps. Ibn Arabi wrote that loneliness is not emptiness. It is a space where Allah speaks directly to the heart, and that is why His closest friends are often kept apart from the crowd. The more you awaken to truth, the more the illusions of the world begin to fade. You stop fitting in. You stop chasing what others chase. You begin to see through the games, the masks, the noise, and what once excited you now feels hollow. At first, this awakening feels like loss. People drift away. Friends no longer understand you. You try to speak your heart, but words fail. You start to feel like you don't belong anywhere. But Ibn Arabi said, "Do not be sad when the world leaves you. It is Allah calling you to Himself." This is the purification of the chosen. When Allah loves a soul, He empties its hands of everything else. He removes the distractions, the attachments, and even the people who were never meant to walk your path. Because the path to Him is narrow, it can only be walked alone. Every prophet, every saint, every lover of Allah has faced this test. Moses was alone on the mountain. Jesus was alone in the desert. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, used to retreat to the cave of Hira, alone, in silence, away from the world. It was there, in that stillness, that revelation descended. So if you find yourself alone, know that you are standing where the chosen have always stood. But solitude is not punishment, it is preparation. Allah is not taking people away from you. He is taking you away from people to polish your soul. He is teaching you to find comfort, not in company, but in His presence. He is teaching you to listen to His voice without the noise of the world. In that quiet, the heart begins to hear things it could never hear before. You begin to see His signs in the smallest details. A ray of light, a passing breeze, a tear that falls at the perfect moment. You start realizing that the silence you feared was actually filled with His speech all along. Ibn Arabi said, "When Allah isolates you, He is preparing you for intimacy." What does this mean? It means the loneliness you feel is not a sign of distance. It is the beginning of closeness. When there is no one left to turn to, you finally turn inward. And there, in the quiet of your own soul, you find the one who never left. Solitude is the mirror of truth. It shows you who you are, without roles, without masks, without noise. Most people run from it because they cannot face themselves. But the chosen must, for only by knowing yourself can you begin to know Allah. As the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Whoever knows himself knows his Lord." So Allah isolates you, not to break you, but to rebuild you. He removes the false layers, the dependence, the need to be seen. And when the heart is finally empty of everything else, He fills it with Himself. That is when loneliness turns to light. Many seekers ask, "Why did Allah make me walk this path alone?" The answer is simple: because He wanted you to know the sweetness of His company. If you were never left alone, you would never know that He is enough. You see, being chosen doesn't mean being celebrated. It often means being misunderstood. Because when you carry divine light, the world that lives in darkness cannot recognize you. Your silence becomes threatening. Your peace becomes confusing. Your presence unsettles those who are still sleeping. And so, they distance themselves, not knowing they are walking away from light. But the one who understands endures. The one who trusts keeps walking. Because every step of isolation is a step toward intimacy. And when the world forgets you, Allah remembers you more. The saints knew this secret. They smiled through their loneliness, for they saw what others could not. That solitude is the garden where divine love grows. It's where the soul learns to speak the language of silence. And once you taste that closeness, you will never again fear being alone. Ibn Arabi said, "The heart that has known Allah never feels separation again." Because even in your isolation, you are surrounded. Even in your silence, you are heard. Even when no one stands beside you, you are walking with the one who created the path beneath your feet. So when you find yourself in solitude, do not run. Do not rush back to noise or distraction. Sit in it, listen, feel, because the silence that frightens others is the same silence that Allah uses to speak to His chosen ones. And if you endure this test with faith, your loneliness will turn into light. Your isolation will become intimacy, and your heart empty of all but Him will finally know what it means to be chosen. You have searched, struggled, fallen, and risen again. You have fought battles within yourself that no one else could see. You have walked through darkness, loneliness, and silence. And somewhere in all that pain, something inside you began to awaken. The truth is, you were never becoming anything. You were only remembering who you already are. Ibn Arabi said, "The journey of the seeker ends where it began, in the heart of Allah." All your life, you've been searching for meaning, strength, and peace. But the one you were searching for was the one who was carrying you all along. The final secret is not hidden in books, nor in distant lands. It's not in teachers, or saints, or miracles. It is in you, the breath that carries His name, the heart that beats by His command. You are not separate from the divine. You are the reflection through which He reveals Himself. When Allah said in the Quran, "We breathed into him of our spirit," He was not speaking of a story from the past. He was describing you, the human being, the living mirror of His beauty and power. That is the hidden power Allah placed inside you. It has always been there, unseen, forgotten, waiting. The world told you to look outward, to chase approval, to seek validation, to measure your worth by what others think. But Allah whispers, "Look within, because within you lies a light older than creation, a light that existed when the heavens were smoke and time had no name." Ibn Arabi called this the divine image, the soul that carries the reflection of all of Allah's names. That means every quality of the divine mercy, patience, power, wisdom, already exists inside you in a hidden form. When you show compassion, you reflect His mercy. When you forgive, you reflect His forgiveness. When you stand firm in truth, you reflect His strength. When you see beauty in all things, you reflect His sight. This is the secret weapon no human has ever truly understood. Because the moment you recognize the divine light within you, you stop being a victim of the world, you become its mirror. You see, Allah didn't send you to this world to escape it. He sent you to reveal Him within it. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be aware, to walk, breathe, and live as a reminder of the one who made you. But this awareness comes at a cost. To remember Allah in a world that forgets Him is to feel everything more deeply. The pain, the beauty, the silence. You begin to see truth in the laughter and tears of others. You begin to feel the divine pulse inside every heartbeat. And that is both a blessing and a burden. Because once your heart awakens, you can never go back to sleep. You can no longer live for shadows when you've seen the Sunday. You can no longer chase what fades when you've touched what's eternal. That is why the awakened are often misunderstood. They no longer play the same games, speak the same words, or follow the same noise. They walk differently because they see differently. Ibn Arabi said, "The knower of Allah walks through fire as though it were cool water." Why? Because they no longer see fire, they see the one who created it. They no longer see loss, they see purification. They no longer see enemies, they see mirrors reflecting their own state. And so, they live in a peace the world cannot touch. But here is the deepest secret. You were never meant to own this power. You were meant to surrender to it. Because the moment you think, "I am powerful," the light dims. But when you say, "Allah is the source of my power," the light expands. This is the balance of the saints, to carry divine strength in complete humility. Ibn Arabi wrote, "The perfected human is the eye through which Allah looks upon His creation." That means when your ego dies and your heart becomes pure, Allah begins to move through you. Your words, your actions, your silence, all become extensions of His will. This is not fantasy. This is surrender. It's the point where your desires end and His begin. The world might still test you. You may still fall, lose, or cry. But something within you will remain unshaken. A quiet knowing that nothing is ever lost in Allah. Every ending hides a beginning. Every tear waters a hidden seed. Every loss is simply Allah carving space in your heart for something eternal. And when you finally reach this point, you realize that the entire journey, the solitude, the pain, the silence, was never about finding Allah. It was about letting go of everything that was blocking you from seeing that He was always there. Ibn Arabi said, "When I looked for God, I found myself. When I looked for myself, I found God." That is the circle of the seeker. The end and the beginning are one and the same. You are not just a body of dust. You are a breath of the divine. Your soul was not made to crawl, it was made to rise. And when you finally understand that every atom within you is saying, "Allahu," you will realize that you never needed to search for miracles. You are the miracle. So stop running, stop searching, be still. Remember, the light you seek has been waiting for you all along, in your breath, in your heart, in your silence. The hidden power Allah placed inside you is not something you gain through effort. It is something you awaken through surrender, through love, through remembrance. And once you awaken it, once you truly remember who you are, you will see the world not as a battlefield, but as a reflection of divine beauty. You will stop asking for signs, because you will become one. You will stop fearing death, because you will realize that what you truly are was never born and will never die. That is the final secret Ibn Arabi left for those who walk the path of love. You are not just a seeker of Allah. You are the place where Allah is revealed. And when the soul reaches this knowing, there is nothing left to search for, nothing left to fight for, nothing left to become. There is only peace. There is only remembrance. There is only Him. Maybe this was never about finding power. Maybe it was about remembering who gave it to you. Because the soul's journey doesn't end in strength. It ends in surrender. When you finally stop fighting to be seen and start allowing Allah to be seen through you, that's when everything changes. The storms that once broke you now cleanse you. The silence that once scared you now speaks to you. The same heart that once felt empty becomes a place where His presence flows without end. Ibn Arabi said, "When the heart becomes pure, it becomes a mirror in which Allah sees Himself." That is your purpose, not to conquer the world, but to become a mirror of His light within it. So the next time you feel small, forgotten, or weak, remember this: the breath that keeps you alive is not yours. It is His. And the light that rises in your heart, that quiet strength that never dies, that is the weapon He gave you. Do not look for it in the world. Do not wait for someone to hand it to you. It has always been there, in your prayer, in your patience, in your love. And when you finally live from that place, you'll understand the deepest truth Ibn Arabi ever taught, that the seeker, the path, and the destination were never three things. They were always one. And that one was always Allah.